how to stop a migraine headache before it starts. I'm going to give you a natural protocol. This is going to be the most important video on migraines that you've ever watched before. Nearly 1 billion people on planet Earth get migraines. 3 times more women than men. Mainstream treatments are medications that are over $1,000 a month. Yet my big question is, what is causing these migraines? For decades, the way that migraines are explained is we have an artery, it vasodilates, and then we have to constrict it with medication, and your migraines go away. Why is this vasodilating in the first place? People that get migraines have a different situation going on in their bodies than people that don't get migraines, especially with energy in the mitochondria. Migraine sufferers produce less energy. It's called ATP. And if you're producing less energy in the brain, that can set you up for a situation. Now, you would think typically that if you have less energy in the brain, that's going to produce brain fog, dull cognitive function, and it does. But in migraine sufferers, what happens is just the opposite. They get more of a hyperexcited brain. And this can show up also in a wave or an aura, like a visual disturbance in a migraine. So if we look inside the body and look at this mitochondria, it's an energy factory. It's an assembly line that goes from raw material to eventual energy. But the first and largest door to start this whole process involves vitamin B2. If you have no vitamin B2, you will not make any energy. So B2 is super important. And people with genetic problems with the mitochondria require nearly twice as much vitamin B2 as people that don't have a genetic problem to generate energy. There was 2 randomized controlled trials. The larger one, involving 245 patients, showed 400 milligrams of vitamin B2 per day cut migraine frequency by roughly 50%. Now check this out. The RDA is roughly a little over 1 milligram of B2 per day. To be able to fix this mitochondria problem, you're going to need 400 milligrams every single day. And not just for one day. It literally takes 3 months to completely fortify and correct the energy problem in your mitochondria. Now, let's compare and contrast that with the drug. It takes what, like 5 minutes for that drug to kick in? B2 takes a little longer because we're dealing with a root cause. We're correcting an energy problem with the mitochondria. Now, I know when I said that, some people are going to be discouraged. They're like, well, I don't have 3 months. I have a migraine right now. Just realize I'm going to get to some other remedies, but B2 is going to be essential. And so there's another piece of the puzzle that you need to understand with migraines. There is a molecule involved in migraines that's responsible for the throbbing of a migraine, the knife-like sensation they experience, the nausea, the amplified pain. And you do not need to know the name of this molecule. All you need to know is right before the migraine starts, there's an energy problem, and then before you get these symptoms, there's a molecule that kicks in that causes these symptoms. And if you take a look at some of the major drugs that deal with migraines, what these drugs do is they block this molecule. And yes, medication might cover most of it, but these medications cause side effects and they don't actually correct the real cause of the migraine. Why is this molecule increased in the first place? And the answer is low energy. And thank goodness there just so happens to be an herb that actually can affect this molecule. And the name of that herb is called butterbur. Butterbur has been used for literally 2,000 years. If you look at some of the reviews on various websites, people talking about butterbur, it's amazing. People are getting relief from migraines. Butterbur creates a desensitized effect on these hyperexcited neurons. So you get less throbbing, less knife pain, less nausea, and overall pain goes down. And less light sensitivity, because with migraines, a lot of people are sensitive to bright lights. The American Neurological Association once gave it its highest evidence rating until 2015. They withdrew that rating, not because the herb did not work. It was because of a manufacturing problem, because if you don't process this herb correctly, it can be very toxic. So you want the version without the toxicity. That actually has a good reputation to make sure that this is PA free. And I do want to say as a side note, if you're pregnant, I would check with your doctor. If you have liver conditions, check with your doctor before taking that. But you want a PA-free certification. I have a free download that I want to give to you. This free download is my daily routine in a checklist. This is the routine that I use every day to feel like I'm 18 years old, even though I'm 60 years old, and I want to give it to you for free. And so there's a little link down below. Click it and definitely download that. Okay, and then the question comes up, why do women get it 3 times more than men? That has to do with estrogen. Estrogen apparently worsens the situation. And also as a side note, they found that when someone drinks more water, the migraines actually get worse. And the reason is because you're diluting electrolytes, especially sodium. And now you know why, because you need these key electrolytes to power this machine. So in other words, if you're taking a lot of water, make sure you also take enough sea salt and probably a high potassium electrolyte. So that way you don't run short on the key electrolytes. Now, the other key electrolyte that I want to talk about is magnesium. Magnesium is the most important one because magnesium is involved in the last stage of making ATP. And so many people are deficient in magnesium. I would recommend taking magnesium glycinate because magnesium glycinate is the gold standard for absorption. And glycinate actually comes from the amino acid called glycine, which is good for the brain. So with vitamin B2, 400 milligrams. With butterbur, 75 milligrams. Twice a day. And why 75 milligrams? Because that's what they use in the research studies. With magnesium glycinate, 400 milligrams, and you can spread that out, some in the morning, some at night. On top of all this, there are other various conditions that can trigger migraines. One is low blood sugar. And this is why I think it's super important to also, on top of all this, go on a low carb diet. So that way you can run your body on fat fuel and actually have less migraines. So a lot of people ask me, what supplements do I recommend? Now, of course, I'm not biased of my own high quality supplement line, but if you go to Amazon and type Dr. Berg supplements, you'll find more information. Another trigger would be caffeine withdrawal. So instead of completely cutting off caffeine, maybe you just have a small amount of caffeine in the morning, maybe 1 small cup and not too much. And there's a lot of people doing the low carb diet incorrectly. So I highly recommend you watch this video right here. I created a very simple yet detailed explanation of how to do it in a healthy way. So check that out right here, right now.